This is Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin, positively connecting the less connected, bridging gaps, and building futures in the community. Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin.
Hello, professionals. My name is Ricot Aladin, and I'm the founder of Professional Launch and the host of the Professional Launch Show here on WDOI. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you. His name is Zac Paulson. He is the VP of ABM Technology Group and have founded 5 companies. The best thing about his career is the fact that he didn't take the traditional route, and I am so curious to learn about him and how he did it and what you can learn from his story as you are launching your own career. Zac, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Rico. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So please tell the Professional Launch audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I grew up in North Dakota. I actually grew up in the western side of the state, but kind of took, like you said, a non-traditional route to getting into what I do today, which is technology. So now I run the managed service division for ABM Advanced Business Methods, ABM Technology Group, and got a little bit of story to tell how I got there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you spent 20 years in technology and founded 5 companies. Mm-hmm. What first pulled you into the tech world?
Yeah, so very non-traditional. So funny enough, this goes back to my high school years. I thought I wanted to be an architect. So, and you know, fast forward or rewind, I guess, back 20 some years ago, and architecture was very much drafting, drawing with a pencil on a board and that type of stuff. But computer-aided drafting was just starting to take off. And so I didn't realize it, but that's probably the original way I got into technology was through computers. But then I ended up working at a pharmacy in high school, so I kind of changed what I wanted to do in life and was going to try to become a pharmacist. So started out in that, did 1 year of college in Dickinson State University, then transferred to NDSU. And I started looking around at all the other pharmacy students and nurses that were in the pre-med program, and I just didn't feel like I belonged. And so I got this part-time job at Best Buy and back in 2001. And career was going well as far as like, you know, enjoying working at a retail electronics place while going to college, but college wasn't going so well. My GPA was in the 2s. It wasn't real high, and they had never accepted anybody in the pharmacy program under 3.8. So there was no way I was going to become a pharmacist. I also wasn't really enjoying it. But I was enjoying the Best Buy part of it. And so I thought, started looking around, I'm like, you know, maybe I could just go career Best Buy. Maybe someday I could just run my own store and live in the retail world. And the trouble was apparently life had a different journey for me because September 11th, 2001, lives changed for many, many people in the world, and I was included in that. I actually was at a training seminar down in Minneapolis when we got an announcement that planes had hit the Trade Center, and life changed globally at that point in time. And so I found myself realizing what a recession can do to retail, and within about a year and a half, I was looking for a new job and had already dropped out of college. So I had to figure out something to do. Mm-hmm. So from there, ended up meeting some business partners who had a computer shop, basically fixing computers and that type of stuff, and ended up getting to be business partners with them. They let me become a business partner a few years later, and we started down our journey of building an IT provider shop. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So looking back, what was the biggest turning point that shaped your career as an entrepreneur? How did you get into entrepreneurship then?
Yeah, so my entry to entrepreneurship was very accidental. Again, I had thought I was going to go to the traditional route of college first. Then I thought I was going to go that route of retail. Actually, it was the pivotal moment was meeting 2 entrepreneurs myself. The 2 guys that had started this computer store. It was called Ignis Technologies at the time, which Ignis means nothing. It was a made-up name. But mainly what we did is we fixed computers, we built websites, and they needed a sales guy. And so really it just started there with somebody to be able to tell a story of what they deliver. They were very much the techie people, so they maybe weren't as well versed in talking to the people that would buy the stuff. And so really that was my job, was to take the very complex techie stuff and put it into plain language for businesses and individuals buying technology.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, the part of your journey that I like is you never graduated from college. And this show itself is for those that are in college, but also for those who are successful, who are those who are making great things happen in the community, in the region, and even in the whole country. So, how did that reality, never graduate from college, how did that reality influence your confidence, drive, and decision making? You know, early on.
Yeah, so early on, I kind of felt like a failure, right? My parents, actually, what I didn't tell you earlier is my parents were both teachers. So my mom was an elementary teacher, and my dad was a high school and junior high teacher. And so to drop out of college, I committed a cardinal sin. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah.
Did they feel disappointed that you didn't graduate from? Yeah,
They
yeah,
did. They
yeah.
did. My dad specifically really questioned my decision and thinking, because you got to go back, 20, 25 years ago, if you didn't graduate from college, you weren't going to amount to anything, right?
Absolutely,
That
yeah.
was the story we were told. And truthfully, I feel like, college is important. If
Yeah.
if you're going to be a neurosurgeon and operate on my brain, you better have a college degree,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the reality is the world is changing to where it isn't necessary as much anymore. And even back then, uh, what I think happened is I got a bunch of grit out of it. I realized everybody was telling me you can't be successful without college, and I think that kind of
You
emboldened
wanted to
me.
prove them wrong.
Yeah, kind of. I wasn't doing it to be mean, but at the same time, I'm like, no, I can do this, and so really dove into it and just kept kind of putting the pedal to the metal.
Mm, wonderful. So, you were in different, you tried different majors in college,
Yeah.
right? You tried different majors, and each, uh, every time there is some setback that kind of push you to a different path.
hmm
So, while you were, w- did you have anyone that you could go talk to about this, like an advisor or a mentor or somebody that can help you identify, a path that is a little more suitable for you?
I really didn't
Okay.
because my parents really thought the college way was the way to go, and uh, and others around me really didn't. I wasn't surrounded by entrepreneurs. Like small business isn't something that's around me and family and stuff. I think what really got me going is early on. As I was going through this journey, I started reading books about business, about sales, and about personal motivation, and started to realize that if it's going to be, it's up to me. And I'm a big faith guy too, so I definitely spend a lot of time in prayer and asking God for direction.
Hmm.
And while I can't say I heard a voice from heaven that said, go be a tech entrepreneur, I feel like there was plenty of doors that closed and there was plenty of doors that opened. And it was just a matter of following direction and learning, right? I feel like lifetime learning is the key. You got to crack open a book. You got to read about what other people have done, and you got to mimic success.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that now, well, let's switch back to entrepreneurship. So, what lesson did entrepreneurship teach you that traditional education might not have?
Yeah, so I think what you can read in a book or learn in traditional education about how a business operates, unfortunately, is only the highlights. It's not all the gritty pieces that don't work.
Hmm.
In fact, there's only been one book I've ever read that talked about the things that didn't work. Most of the other books typically talk about all the things that
What?
worked.
Yes.
And so entrepreneurship, one of the things you got to be ready for is just failure. And quite frankly, I wasn't really taught how to fail. And so early on, when failure hit, I felt like I was a total failure and was never going to recover. Um,
That's a very important. What you just said is really, we don't learn how to fail, and we fail more often than we succeed
True.
in life, right? So think about it. So we don't learn how to deal with failure, and as we are on our journey, most of the time we're gonna fail before we find that piece of success.
Right.
And I think that's very important. So how did you learn to deal with failure or cope with failure?
Right. So eventually, after I'd done it enough, you
Mhm.
kind of get a little used to it. But the
Yeah.
other part is I think you got to kind of reframe what failure is.
Mhm.
If you and I, they had the big maze over at West Acres around Halloween, right? And you remember seeing the big maze that they had made out of wood. If you and I were to start that maze and we were to start to go down a path and then hit a wall that doesn't go to the end, would we consider it failure, or would we just go find another way? And I think that's probably the biggest thing I've learned. It took a long time to learn it, especially when I wasn't taught how to fail. But really, when you hit a wall, it's just a time to turn around and look for a different path.
Yeah, I like that. So, of the 5 companies you founded, which experience stretched you the most as a leader?
Yeah, I think the fourth I guess it'd be the last company I founded, True IT, was probably the one that really shaped me the most as a leader. So we formed that in 2012 out of the ashes of kind of a failed merger of a previous company. And that was the one that really grew to the greatest size and really started to push the envelope for all the things that come with business, people, cash, all the problems that you run into, and started to really shape me as a leader.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be right back. We are back. Today, we are talking to Zac Paulson. He is the VP of technology for ABM Technology Group. So, Zac, you have witnessed massive changes in technology over the last 2 decades. What shifts have had the biggest impact on how business operates today?
Yeah, so I would say probably the largest one, except for AI, which we'll talk about probably in a little bit, is cybersecurity. So when I got started 20 years ago in technology, if you had an antivirus and a good backup, you were good. That world is very different today. So just an example, our company puts 9 layers of security on a business to secure their environment. That's a lot different than a good backup and an antivirus.
So what are you protecting? Are you protecting their money? Are you protecting people's personal data? What are you protecting?
Yeah, so in a lot of cases, it's all of the above. There's the hackers have kind of switched their method over the last few years to really go after the money frame, like the money chain, right? So where the money transacts. But early on, a few years ago, we heard about ransomware. That was a big deal where they'd lock up an entire network and then you'd pay a ransom to get it unlocked. That has diminished drastically over the last year or so.
Okay.
Now it's all really trying to extort money from you.
Ah, wow. Okay, so what technologies do you think are overrated and which ones are still underutilized?
Yeah. Well, I would actually put AI in both of those categories. So AI is probably a little overrated in the fact that we kind of feel like it's going to be, like, people tout it as the savior of the world, right? And it's not quite there yet. It's got a lot of cool things it can do, but it isn't as refined. On the flip side, the technology that's going to change the world is AI. We're going to see massive shifts in the way that business is done, in the way that that entrepreneurship is even done. If you start to think about somebody starting a business, AI gives you a huge advantage to be able to put things together that would have taken hours or days or months before.
Wonderful. So in your role as VP of Technology at ABM Technology Group, what does good technology leadership look like in practice?
Yeah. Well, so one of the founding tenets of the company that we put together was that technology is not what you're serving. You are serving people. People is what it's all about. The technology is simply the tool to get there. If I was running a construction firm, I wouldn't talk about the types of drills or saws that I use. I would talk about the home I was building or the office complex I was building. And that's just like technology. When we're working on technology, we aren't serving the computers or the networks. We're serving the individuals that run the businesses.
I love that. I love that. So you said while technology is cool, loving people is your passion. Where did that philosophy come from?
Yeah. So it came from a lesson I learned from one of our customer engagements. So we had a client and they were firing us. And that's never fun. It's never fun to get fired by a client, but I always took every time a client decided to go somewhere else as a lesson. And I asked myself, I said, what's going on here? Because when we would help a client, we would do everything in our power to get them back up and running. In fact, there were times where we slept in their offices, right? In order to wait till the server was back up and running, we'd just lay down on the couch and wait till everything was back and running. And I got to thinking, if we're willing to do that, why would this client be firing us? And then it dawned on me, it was the little things. It was the things that caused pain for the workers that actually got us fired. And so what I did is I went out and bought a giant teddy bear. And I got this teddy bear and I put him on a pedestal and I said, he's the bearer of Warm Fuzzies. And I want to remind every one of you, we aren't serving technology, we're serving people. And if they don't feel warm and fuzzy about the technology, we've failed.
Mm.
And because technology is cold and scary by nature. So by
Yeah.
putting it warm and fuzzy, that was our goal.
Okay. Wow. So how do you do design technology systems that truly enhance people's lives and instead of complicating them?
Yeah, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and complication is what technology is all about. So we
Yeah.
really try to simplify things. In fact, in business and life in general, I think simplification is what we need to drive for.
Mhm.
Systems will naturally get more complicated than they should be. If we can look at stuff about what we can eliminate or what we can make simple, that's probably the best place to start.
Wonderful. So, can you share an example where you talk about loving people, being human in the technology world? I know what it's like when frustrated it is when you have a black screen and so on and so forth. So, can you share an example where you put people first and that led to better business outcomes?
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned is actually it comes down to communication. People want to know what's going on, and they don't want to know the techie details. Like, you don't care about how your VPN works or your cybersecurity is preventing a problem, but when something's not working, you want to be talked to.
Mm-hmm.
The example I give is, we've probably all had the situation where we've taken our car to the mechanic, and the mechanic works on our car, and we probably had to get a ride to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were waiting and maybe talked to a buddy at work to give us a ride back to the mechanic. And what ends up happening is all of a sudden at 4 o'clock, you get a call from the mechanic and they're like, "Hey, you going to pick your car up?" We're like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you to call me to come pick the car up." And they're like, "Oh, it's been done since noon." Well, if you don't communicate, you didn't win any brownie points, right?
Yeah.
And so what we've really driven into people is that this is all about communication. Probably the number one thing we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So, um, what do you do right now as VP?
Yeah.
What is that VP of technology? What does that entail?
Yeah. So a primary focus of mine is working with the products we offer to make sure that we're offering the right products to keep our business clients safe, secure, and operating. That's a piece of it. The other part is just making sure our operations are working efficiently. We have service delivery, we have project management, we have sales, we have all the components that go into making sure that our business clients are successful. So I make sure that continues to operate. And then probably the most fun, the thing I love the most, is I actually work on the new client acquisition side a lot. And so when I have a client or a prospect that is interested in working with us, I get to go out and visit with them and find out if they're the right fit, explain what we do, and explain how they might fit into our portfolio.
Wonderful. So, earlier you mentioned grit. One of the things you get from reading from other people's journey and stories is grit. So, what role has grit played in your journey, especially during moments where things don't work out?
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing you got to get used to in entrepreneurship is you're going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. And so grit really comes into the idea that you've got to grind through it. I've never been a real gym rat or anything like that, never really gone to workout or anything, but I've been told that when you reach that point of pain, you push a little bit farther, right? You got to kind of lean into it. And I would say the same is true with business and entrepreneurship is you've got to kind of push through and get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, how do you personally define success as a leader and as a founder and as a person?
Yeah. So honestly, I would say success is being happy with what you do every day, feeling blessed that you get to do what you do. Frankly, it's not a paycheck. It's not a following. It's not what other people think of you. In fact, what other people think of you is none of your business.
Yes.
That's a motto I live by. But what I would say is it really is waking up every day feeling happy and blessed to be alive and to get to do what you do and hopefully bless others in the process.
Yeah. James, do we go for a break? All right. So we're going to take another short break here. When we come back, we'll talk about mentorship a little bit because this is what we are about. We'll be right back. We are back. Today we are talking to Zac Paulson. He is a VP of technology for ABM Technology Group. We are so glad to have you here. So this is the part where in the conversation we talk about mentorship, right? So my first question is, have you ever had a mentor? And if you have, how have they influenced you?
Yeah. Over the years, I've had many different mentors, and they've influenced me in several different ways. I would say, how to run a business, how to deal with problems with staff or with market conditions, lots of different ways. And what was probably most unique is they always kind of came to the table randomly. I didn't necessarily go out seeking them, but as they came to the table, it was a great time to connect. And some last for a while, and some last for just a few moments.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what would you tell? Because you were in college for a year at some point, and you have make different choices. You have chosen different paths that you thought were the one for you, and they weren't. And so, thinking back,
hmm
do you think that if you had some guidance along the way, would that make a difference?
It might have. I would say one of the things I would tell myself if I could go back 20 some years and say, hey, if you're going to do business, take a business course or take accounting. That would have been really helpful. Turns out accounting is very important in business. So I grew up not realizing business was a potential major. I didn't know, entrepreneurship was a potential major. I had no interest in accounting or even understanding it. Those all would have been really helpful, especially considering the pathway I took.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we talk about mentorship as providing guidance and support to those who are, trying to launch their careers. So it is important.
hmm
What would you tell young college students right now about the importance of finding that guidance from either somebody they want to be like or someone who is doing something that they want to see themselves doing?
Yeah, I would say put themselves out there. What's interesting about myself, I'm in my early 40s now, so I've been through a lot in business, been through a lot in life, and I love sharing that story. I love hearing about people's ambitions and helping them through different problems. They'd be surprised if they find somebody they want to emulate. I bet if you ask them, they would be happy to tell you how to
Yes.
do it. And
Yes.
so that's probably the biggest thing that's overlooked is not very many people ask. Not very many people come to you and say, hey, could I pick your brain for a minute or could I ask a question? And we would love to.
Yeah, I can second that. It's like a lot of times it's the fear, but the people who are able to help, they're always willing to help. It's just the fact that they are not asked to help.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we don't get the help sometimes as young professionals. Wonderful, wonderful. So you describe yourself as a lifelong learner. How do you intentionally keep learning, especially in a fast-moving industry like technology?
Yeah, well, I joke a lot. I quote a lot of books, and people will be like, man, you read a lot. Well, I really listen a lot with things like audiobooks or Audible or those type of things. I try to be always reading a book or two or three or four. I love reading and learning about what other people are doing.
What book are you reading now?
The one I'm reading now is actually, I got started on a podcast. I've started to read Darknet Diaries, and Darknet Diaries is all about cybersecurity, kind of real world stories, and that's probably what I'm diving into the most. I've got a couple other business books that I've picked up and put down, but the most common right now is actually learning more about our industry and about AI and some of the new things that are happening.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what skills do you believe will matter most for the next generation of tech leaders?
Actually, probably the biggest skill I think people are going to have to learn, and I've been talking about this a lot, is discernment. People have to learn how to discern from truth and reality and what outcomes will be, especially as we're entering into the world of AI. It's really going to be hard to know what is real and what is concocted. And so you've probably played around with some of the AI tools. You've probably had to generate images. The other day I was experimenting with making songs. It's amazing what AI is able to do and the quality of what it's producing. And even fast forward, or rewind back six months, and it was terrible. It couldn't write a song. It couldn't produce graphics that had all the fingers and toes people should have had. But now it's advanced to the point where it's really hard to tell the difference between reality and artificial.
So, well, with that being said, I had this same conversation with someone I think 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about what AI will not be able to replace is really the emotion. For example, if you take a song,
Mm-hmm.
right, you might have an AI agent that can write a song, give you the best sound, but that song itself will have a different feel if it comes from an actual human with the raw emotion and
Right.
everything. So that's something that I don't think AI will be able to replace, or maybe at least not yet.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'll throw out. Are you familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson? Have you heard of him before?
Mm-mm.
He's an astrophysicist and really a incredibly intelligent, funny guy. And I got to see him speak at a conference, and they asked him this question. And one of the things he said is, AI will actually not be able to create. And now a lot of people get thrown off by that because they're like, it creates stuff all the time. I can have it create a song, I can have it create documents, but it can't actually create what makes humans unique. Think about Rembrandt, think about Michelangelo, think about Leonardo da Vinci. AI won't be able to replace those. It will be able to mimic those. So I really think where the human element comes in is we have, I feel, an inspiration from God to create, and that spark cannot be artificially created. Just like what you said, that emotion, that raw emotion.
Mm. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So, how can young professionals stay relevant when technology changes so quickly?
Yeah. A big thing is you got to look at things. Elon Musk talks about this. Have humans do the thing only humans can do. And so I would say, look at what you want to do in life and make sure it's a trait or a technique or an industry that only humans can do. Because truly, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, everything that can be artificially done will be done. We will move that fast. It is going to be rapidly moving that. But there's always going to be things that humans will do that the robot can't, or that the AI bot can't.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, that being said, between now and 5 years from now, what excites you the most about the future of technology and its impact on people?
Yeah, I think the idea that we can get so much more accomplished with so less effort is probably the most exciting. Technology's come a long ways in 25 years. I've seen back when I got started, one of the biggest requests I got around this area in Lakes Country is business owners going, well, I just want to work from home. I want to work from the lake. I don't want to have to come in. I want to be able to go out to the lake on Thursday and not come back till Monday afternoon. Well, think about that. Today, that's just funny. We all kind of laugh. Of course you could do that. That's easy. But that type of thing is going to be really common in the future, where we're going to have a lot of day-to-day tasks that we don't like doing. They're just effort we have to put forth but don't have a lot of value, and we're going to be able to replace that with artificial intelligence. So I've heard it said that AI is not going to replace you, but someone that knows how to use AI is going to replace you.
I've heard that also.
Yeah.
So, if you could talk to a computer science major, or someone who is learning programming, in college right now, what would be maybe a 1 to 3 step for that they can follow to set up their career?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, look at what you love to do. Look at what you're gifted at doing, and then try to figure out how you make money doing it. Because, we sometimes artists get a bad rap, right? We love to create art, but we can't make money doing it. So you got to not only love to do what you do, but you also have to know how to make money doing it. And then what I would also say, if you're planning on anything related to business or entrepreneurship, find a partner that complements your weaknesses. So, for example, my business partners were very techie, and I'm not. Ironically, I've learned a lot over the last 25 years, but I can't program a line of code, and I can't fix a computer for you. But they couldn't also have the conversations I could have. They couldn't relate very technical conversations into stories as to why you should buy a technology or use a technology. So find business partners that complement you, not business partners that just agree with you.
How do you do that? How do you find a business partner?
Yeah, great question. Mine was very serendipitous. Mine was just a kind of, I had that fallout with Best Buy where the recession hit, and I was looking for a job. And actually, I went to a business networking group. It was called BNI. I don't know if it's still around anymore, but
yeah.
I went to a BNI group, and a bunch of business leaders were there. And I basically told them what I was doing that time, which was essentially selling insurance. And they must have realized that I didn't like what I was doing, or I was not very successful at it, because they said, "Do you want to do this forever?" And I said, "No, not really. I'd love to get out of this." And somebody said, "Well, I know these guys that are in this technology thing, and they're looking for a sales guy. Would you be interested in talking with them?" That's how my career started. So I would say, have conversations. One of the challenges is those silly smartphones that got created. We spend so much time looking down at them and not looking out and talking to people.
Oh yes.
So get out and talk to people.
That's one thing that how do they fight it? Because college students or young professionals now are so, I don't know what use the word addicted, but they're so attached to their phones that it's really, a text is always easier than meeting for coffee. An email is always easier than a phone call. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
those kind of are becoming habits that are not gonna serve us well.
Right.
When it comes to the human connection
Yeah.
part of deal. So how would you tell them to kind of counter that or work on improving that behavior?
Yeah, I think like anything, you just got to make a habit of going against the grain. You've just got to put your grit on and just say, "I'm going to do something that isn't normal." And so whether it's once a week, you say, "I'm going to go have coffee with a business owner," or "I'm going to reach out to somebody that is in my field and learn from them." And you just force yourself to do it. It may be really uncomfortable, and you may sit there with a lot of silence because you don't know how to have that conversation. But here's a little trick. Every person loves to talk about themselves.
Oh yeah.
So just ask a question about their career, and chances are they'll open up and they'll tell you everything. The other thing is every person typically likes to tell you about all the hardships they've been through and how they've kind of ground through it. And so just ask them, like, what was the toughest part of your career? And open up.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're gonna take another short break here. When we come back, we'll continue with the last segment of the conversation. We'll be right back. We are back, man. We have a great show today, and I'm so glad to have Zac Paulson here in the studio for a conversation. And we're talking about technology, and we talk about mentorship. Now, Zac, your career, your success is somewhat different than most, right? Because you didn't take the traditional path to find success. I wanna, if there is, when all is said and done, what kind of legacy do you hope your work in technology leaves behind, especially for maybe a high schooler right now who might be struggling, with the idea of either going to college or not going to college?
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. Legacy. I don't know that I've thought too much about it. I think the thing I'm most proud of is just the fact that we've built companies that help other companies go forward and also employ people in great careers in technology. Probably one of the hardest things over the years was watching good employees leave to go to other companies because I didn't have a position for them at mine. I didn't have that next stepping stone. And so a big driver for me is just really creating an organization where we can continue to employ young people looking to get into technology and move on with their career, but then have those next stepping stones for them so that they don't have to go elsewhere. Now at ABM, what's really cool about the company is it's an employee-owned company. It's an ESOP. And so now I've got an organization where people that come to work here could retire here after 40 years. In fact, we have a lot of people 30, 40 years, and they're still working for ABM. So it's really exciting.
They could retire after 40?
I guess they can retire whenever they want, but they've worked for us for 40 years.
Okay.
So yeah, at ABM.
Okay. So you mentioned that you didn't have an opportunity for those who were leaving. Why is that? Is it because they outgrown the company, or what was the reason behind them leaving?
Yeah, early on when we started our technology company, we'd have less than 10 employees, and so if you had somebody that was in a tech and they were maybe a level 1, but they grew to a level 2, if I didn't have a room for another level 2, they'd have to go work at another company. And so my goal is to keep the pace of the company moving so that I can keep those people growing within the company instead of having to go elsewhere to get a job.
Wonderful. So we have only 1 minute left right now. Yeah, maybe give me one piece of advice you can give to young professionals in college right now. Yeah, you have 53 minutes, 53 seconds.
53 seconds. Yeah. I guess I would say take an inventory of yourself And then make sure that you've emboldened yourself enough to push past all those failures. Learn that failure is normal, but get comfortable with pushing past it and looking for that success. And then, like we said before, reach out. Go have coffee with somebody. Talk to somebody you normally wouldn't.
Wonderful, wonderful. Reach out. Know that failure is normal. We all fail at some point in our lives. You probably gonna fail more often than you succeed. So it's best to start learning and find a way to deal with failure. Now, thank you so much, Zach, for being on the show today. It's such a pleasure to have you here for this conversation. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day.